Good evening. Welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas Council meeting for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I have a motion. Let it resolve that the March 5th council meeting of the Municipality of South Dundas now be opened at 6 p.m. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. I'd like to move item number 9I from consent to discussion, please.
Very good. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Broad. I'd like to move consent agenda, I guess items 9D and E are kind of related to discussion items as well.
Very good. I have two. I will be making a notice of motion under procurement. And we can discuss that at the time. I'd also like to defer item 6B, tender results for the fire chief SUV, as that item does not appear in our fleet schedule and is a change to our fleet schedule and should be discussed at a committee of the whole meeting. That's all right with council team?
I agree 100%.
Okay, clerk, we will delete item 6B to committee of the whole meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you. Any others? All right, seeing none, I have a motion. Let it resolve that the municipality of South Dundas approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Are there disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof tonight? Seeing none. Adoption of minutes. Any errors or omissions from the minutes of the regular meeting of February 19th? Or the meeting of minutes of March 5th? Seeing none, I have a motion to let it resolve that the meeting minutes be adopted as presented for the March 5th regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. We don't have any delegations tonight. We'll move to 6A, TS 2025-01, tender results for the half-ton truck. Director Hyman.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So before you, you'll find the tender results of many to come for the Transportation Department. This one was for a half-ton truck. So during budget talks, I had presented a plan on how we can save the life of our present road patrolman's truck, which is unit number 111. Unit number 72, which is presently used at the landfill, we're just going to do some vehicle swaps, and this new vehicle that's coming in will introduce it as the patrolman's vehicle, which then will put 111 into the fleet as just a regular employee commuter vehicle. Then unit number 76, which is a 2015 Dodge extended cab vehicle, it would then go to the landfill to replace unit number 72. So a little bit of a shifting around. This tender was issued through bids and tenders, as well as our local newspaper. We did have 4 submissions, and the budgeted price that we estimated during tendering, during budget time, was for $68,000 plus HST. This has come in significantly lower at $53,121.30. I can answer any questions which you may have at this time.
I like when bids come in lower than the budgeting, and we'll sharpen our pencil on the budget for sure. So that's good news. Any questions or comments? No. This time? No. Okay, excellent. So I have a motion. The council accept report TS 2025-01 for the purpose of a half-ton truck in the amount of $52,250 plus HST from LaPlante Buick GMC. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving to bylaws. 2025-22 adoption, delegation of authority bylaw. Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and through you to council. The bylaw before you is should not be unfamiliar. You've had an opportunity to look at it a couple of times. So at our last meeting, there was some discussion about the delegation for the planning delegation. So planner Stephanie Moray and myself went through our previous delegation of authority bylaw, the planning bylaw, and thought it would be best to keep it separate. So we've removed any delegation powers for planning-related items from this bylaw so that it stands on its own. So this bylaw reflects essentially the same that you've seen before, minus the planning delegations. And happy to answer any other questions that you might have at this time, but the bylaw's before you for adoption.
Questions, comments? Councillor Ward.
I just have one question through you, Mayor, if you don't mind. So going through, I noticed like there's the executing contracts and agreements. So we had this chat, I think at the last meeting. I just want to bring it up again so that I understand. So if we approve an amount in the budget, that director can then go ahead, tender that and award it themselves, or would that award still come back to council?
Through you, Mayor Broad. The award would still procedurally have to come back to council for approval. This would be contracts and agreements that are under the procurement limit. So it wouldn't affect the procurement process that we use right now.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad, and I appreciate you guys removing the planning component from this document. You know, again, all I wanted was some reinsurance on some of the planning delegated authority that, you know, if there was contentious items and larger items, that we would still have the ability to come back to council. So, you know, I could have lived with the comprehensive document with just some answers, but if you split it out, and so when do you think the other one's going to come back then, Clerk LeBrun?
Through you, Mayor Broad, to council, so we can bring, so that bylaw was established in 2023, so we could review it at any time. So council would have approved the delegation of authority bylaw back, like I said, in 2023. So if there's a desire to look at it again, to go through and understand the authority, I guess, that staff have and versus council, we could absolutely bring that back as a discussion item. And then if there's any feedback from council that we'd like to see or remove in that bylaw, then we can make those changes after.
Or perhaps, Mayor Brown, we could do it as a committee,
Absolutely.
include it as a committee, the whole meeting. I'm not suggesting on the next one, because it looks like our agenda is getting pretty full, but maybe in the future, and the next one after that we have, we could just bring it back then. Again, it's just a reinsurance more than anything, Crystal.
Happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I have a motion. The Council of Municipality South Dundas approves bylaw number 2025-22, being a bylaw to delegate certain powers of duties to officers and employees of the Municipality of South Dundas as presented. Moved by Councilor Ward, seconded by Councilor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. 7B, 2025-23 site licensing agreement, dual charges. Director Jansen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So in front of you this evening is a report. This is a follow-up to, I guess, as Council might remember, last January, I believe Jewel gave a delegation looking to apply for a grant to install chargers on municipal property. We issued a memorandum of understanding at that point. That was just to allow them to apply for the grant on our behalf. Last fall, it was released that they were successful in 6 locations here in South Dundas. So just last week, I met them on site. We've toured all the sites. They're starting to, we looked at all the electrical services there. We started locating some potential spots. They're working on developing site plans. Simultaneously, they're looking to enter into an agreement to actually have use of our property. So that's what this agreement is for. As I noted in there, they're looking to hopefully get a couple done this year. I believe they were approved for many all over the province. So they're just trying to spread their time management around a little bit. So they're hoping to get at least 1 or 2 done here in South Dundas this year, maybe 3 or 4 the next year, just trying to make sure that everything gets done, and also to align with a little bit of what we're doing as well. So while I was touring on site with them at each location, you know, somewhere like Matilda Hall, really easy for them to come in, blank slate, put it in. Somewhere like the Mooresburg Plaza, where we have a tender out and there's a lot of moving parts on our end, maybe that's a better one that we delay. So those are the discussions that I was having with them as well, just to make sure that it's timed well for us and well for them. But outside of that, this is the contract to execute and start the process on that end.
Yeah, thanks, Director. I assume we'll get to see a little map before we officially sign off on locations, because I think that's probably some interest of some of us. of where they kind of are going, especially like the mall, the shopping mall one, or the arena one might be of interest, so we kind of know where they're going, answer questions in the community.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Broad, I did include in here, so as I see the site plans, I'll try and get them out to the community for communication. Some of them
Sure.
will require a fair amount of communication, some of them not so much. Like Matilda Hall, you're not going to need to send that out to the neighboring areas, but you know, the plaza, we'll make sure that we send it to all the businesses and get some comments before we finalize the
Okay.
site plans.
That's great. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, just on the same line, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm glad we're just doing it and putting them out. I thought it was kind of odd that we were putting two of them in Iroquois and two locations Iroquois and two locations in Mooresburg that were really close to each other. It's like a 9-iron for me, a driver for Mayor Broad, but I mean, they were just seemed pretty close, right? So I just was curious more about that, why we would not just lump them in one location versus just having them spread out. But regardless, I'm okay with it either way.
Okay,
Director?
through you, Mayor Broad, to council. So ultimately, it's Jules' decision where they go. So we have some say on the property, but they applied for all of them, and it's their business plan that it has to fit the model of mostly they're the one collecting the revenue more than anything. So
Thanks, Director. At least I didn't three-putt the hole. Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. I just had a quick question. So it mentions that there's going to be a revenue of like $21,000. I just wanted to make a suggestion, and maybe staff can take this back under consideration for budget in the future, is that I'd like to see that money go to each individual facility rather than just back into the pot. Just because Matilda Hall has a parking lot, if we could use some money to repave it eventually, I know it's not a lot, but just so it stays in that area to fund.
Yeah,
these
no, I understand,
projects.
like, thinking of our asset management plan, right? As we're making plans, how we build reserves for those to earmark those particular items, because that's the use of that property is for that.
Yeah,
No,
if,
that kind
if
of
we
makes
could
sense.
consider that, I would just appreciate that, so.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, I just wanted to double check, it was in the agreement that if the lease ends and the whole project ends up going away, that they have to remove everything that was put in? Okay, at their expense? Yes, okay.
Great question.
and yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Ward's point, similar to what we do with the ExploreNet Tower and stuff like that, all of these facilities already have their own revenue line in our budget. And like the ExploreNet Tower, that revenue goes into the Matilda Hall revenue line. So we do the same thing for this.
Good, okay. All right. I have a motion that bylaw 2025-23 being a bylaw to execute an agreement with eCameo Inc. for site licensing to 6 locations, installation of EV chargers to be read and passed in open council, signed, sealed. Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward, all in favor? Carried. Okay, 7C, 2025-24, water use of wastewater rates, bylaw, Treasurer Stewart's, interim CO Stewart. Finally get to talk.
That's right. Thank you, through you, Mayor Broad. This is just a housekeeping item. It's pertaining to water rates for Mooresburg and Iroquois. Originally, we had the rates in with the fees and charges, so they've been removed from the fees and charges bylaw and instead put on their own, as well as there were some other standalone bylaws that we just put everything together to do with water and wastewater for Mooresburg and Iroquois. Like that, it makes it easier annually when we're reviewing the rates. We can review the whole document and see if there's any updates needed rather than look for them on separate documents, separate bylaws. So they're all combined into one with new rates.
Very good. Questions, comments? Seeing none, have a motion to resolve the Council of South Dundas bylaw number 2025-24 being a bylaw to update the regulations for rates of water and wastewater services, establish rules and regulations governing the installation, inspection, repair, replacement, alteration of water meters related to apparatus, and set penalties for offenses related to these regulations, and that repeal bylaw 2017-58, 2021-128, 2023-53, 2024-03, 2024-83 upon date of passing bylaw number 2025-24. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Very good. Okay, moving to 8, boards and committees, Borders Alliance. Very much activity, obviously, within the border and tariffs and the Border Alliance. We continue to meet every Thursday. We continue to get daily updates from Crestview, Core. That's our strategist that helps us with communication, understanding everything that's going on. If folks aren't able to keep up with the minute-by-minute news updates that happen. Obviously, as of today, we're in a tariff war with the United States, reprieve for 30 days on auto industry. But with that being said, I think it's really an important time for us mayors to continue to talk. There's a U.S. Mayors Alliance that's formed as well, and they're working on their side. So a lot of the border towns, especially the big ones, Surrey, BC, and Windsor, their massive implications for their residents on a daily basis. So continue to talk and get information, and we just continue to support. And what we can do is legislation and be supportive of ourselves. And Councilor Vito gave me a call last night. Geez, we're talking, we should talk about shopping local. And I was like, yeah, you're right on. I already had some notes written when you called. Maybe this is a great opportunity just to think about that. And we did share at the last meeting about the ActDev and just about, we have a shop at South Dundas website, and we're getting that updated, and we'll get that updated. But I think it's most important time, that we shop as local as we can, because everybody's going to feel it directly. And I know businesses that we work in are already affected already, right, day one. So certainly shop local and really shop within SD&G, right? I mean, SD&G taxpayers pay for roads, county roads, ambulance service, social service. So that's important. And let's not forget, some of our partners in Cardinal and Prescott, because we do intertwine, especially with Iroquois and jobs. So thinking about just the local areas, we continue to shop local. And I think, and I'm going to mention this tomorrow morning at the mayor's breakfast, at the chamber, right? Never more important, Chamber of Commerce come together and keep promoting what all the local businesses do. So we're not necessarily shopping online or getting our business other places. So just making aware what we can definitely contribute within the community. And I think one of the couple things that's coming, SDG at the tourist level, communication level, we're going to do a shop SDG video, get that out on YouTube, and just promote shop and local. Certainly one of the things we don't want to do is save either, right? We need to continue to spend, but to save, right? We don't want to shut down, because that affects everybody. And then we'll also remember that we are partners with the Cornwall SDG Business Enterprise Center. So we've had them come before. I don't know, other folks here have worked with them on starting businesses, working with businesses, and this is a great opportunity for folks that may struggle if it's really the tariff impacts them dramatically, right? That's going to affect everybody in a different way. If not, just on emotions alone will affect everybody. So I thought I would just, make that a topic of the borders, was let's shop local and let's promote that as best we can. Any comments or follow-up you want to add to that? I'm happy to add any more. Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. And this kind of, I guess, segue into that motion or the pulling of the consent agenda item. I know that a lot of the developers out there are also going through all of their inventory and their product list and reviewing what we purchase in the States, what we purchase from Europe, what we purchase in Canada, what we purchase in China, and all that stuff. And we're trying to go through and certainly pivot to purchase more and more from the Canadian products. I might as well say it now. I think we as Canada has to clean up a little bit with our provincial trade. There's a lot of people don't know, but there's a tariff on our provincial trade,
Yes.
up to almost 21% on some items. So that, so our local governments, our provincial governments, our federal government needs to do a good job of cleaning that up to make it more affordable within Canada. So I agree with you. I think as a municipality, we should be looking at all of our products as well, everything we purchase, and seeing if there's an alternative. And if we need to pivot, I think we should pivot if we can. And this is not saying that, and I'm glad that you're on the mayor's, this mayor's committee to get the information, provide the information. But at the end of the day, we need to look after ourselves first, and that's what we need to do. So
For sure.
I'll continue my little rant when we get to that discussion, but it's one of the things I think we all need to do is look at the products we're purchasing and ensure ourselves that we're purchasing Canada and other alternatives.
Yeah.
Good job on being on
Yeah,
that.
no, for sure, and that's the part we can do. Yeah, and we'll have further discussion a little later. Okay, Councillor Smith's South Nation Conservation Board meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. So there was a South Nation meeting a week or so ago. So the province has mandated for some of the rural conservation authorities that they have to add a agriculture representative onto their board. So they're just trying to do a little bit of shifting around on their executive and, and how it's going to work. The position is going to be a non-voting position. So also other news from South Nation, just on their board. City of Ottawa Representative George DeRuse was our past chair, and George is taking on a new role, working as a MPP for the province now. So part of that means he's resigning from Ottawa City Council, and so he also has to resign from the South Nation Conservation Board. So far, the last year or so, we've been through 2 past chairs at South Nation because they've all moved on to other positions. And so they're in the middle of trying to do like a big shake up on their executive, how is this the way to do it? Should we just go to something else? So they're deciding that they're going to have a chair and 2 vice chairs instead of a vice chair and a past chair. And so just some small changes like that they're making. What else? Some other things that they did, of course, just before, the meeting was just before the provincial election, and so they went over some information that they were going to be sending out to all the candidates who are running, so they did that. And just some other news in our area is that this week, I believe starting on Monday, I haven't been by Two Creeks this week, perhaps Mayor Broad, you have, is there
Yes,
some activity going on there? They were supposed to be starting this week, they're digging a couple of wetland areas back in some of the low
There's
spots
equipment
back there.
been moving around.
Yeah, there's equipment moving around,
So
yeah,
I'm not sure how much they've done, but
yeah, so the plan is that they're hoping it's gonna be weather dependent, but the idea is to get in there before everything completely thaws out, and hopefully they have a lot of it done. And so, like,
Nice.
hopefully, so like this spring, there could be some new ponds back in there, so that's the plan, so.
Yeah. Geez, I remember, 2 years ago, we were talking about how, we got to clean up Two Creeks, and
Yeah.
Carl came, and all of a sudden, over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of activity, and that
Yeah.
1 kilometer trail's all
Yeah.
done and
Yep.
building the pond, so
Yeah.
that's fantastic news, what they've done at South Nation,
Yeah.
so pass on our thank you to the board.
Yeah, and I did get some information too on Two Creeks, on their trail counter, and I asked today. So about 300 people in the month of January and about 400 in the month of February went through that short 1 kilometer trail loop by the road on the trail counter.
Yeah, it's
So
like 10 a day, so.
yeah, so
it's
it gets-
like we're
it gets
busy.
used.
On the nice day, we don't have nice days, every day is
Yeah.
nice, so on
Yeah.
nice days, lots of people.
Yeah,
that's good.
So.
Okay, very good. Awesome. Joint Waterfront Committee, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, we had a joint waterfront committee meeting last week, and the main, or maybe the only topic of discussions was regarding the activities at our beach. As we all know, through the municipality, through generous donations from various groups, both in Iroquois and Morrisburg. John Ross, obviously, in Iroquois Lions Club has been big in Morrisburg. They've expanded our beaches, made it better, made them nicer, made them more attractive, which equaled a whole lot of extra people coming. And as you know, David and I talked to 15 years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of people were saying we need more tourism. We'd like to attract more people to our community, and lo and behold, that's what's happened. But it's also created some nuances, some challenges for us. What Morrisburg and Iroquois have witnessed over the last couple of years, and COVID has been the contributing factor to it, is people coming to visit, but coming to visit and staying a long time there, and having a lot of open barbecues and picnics, and generating obviously trash and garbage, and unfortunately sometimes not picking up their own trash, and coming with big tents and whatnot. So in our meeting, we had a discussion about what can we do to continue promoting our beaches, but also maybe minimizing the amount of trash that we have to pick up or the amount of work that we have to do after cleanup of bathrooms and whatnot. So we discussed a few items, and David, do you want me just to kind of go through the high-level items, or do you want to go through them as well, or?
I think, through you, Mayor Broad, if the deputy mayor goes through a little bit of the discussion of the committee here during the boards and committees, then I'll spend a little bit of time in the discussion time, talking a little bit more about the implementation of the discussion.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. So some of the things we talked about and I brought to the forefront with others was perhaps we need to reduce the open barbecues and open eating areas. Reduce it to that it's a picnic style lunch only. The other thing is we suggested that instead of bringing large tents there and that it would be just shade umbrellas only. And we also talked about fees, and one of the things that we not really struggled with, but I think we're all in agreement that we should implement some type of fee for users. I believe that our South Dundas residents pay enough in taxes that if they want to use the beaches, maybe we promote giving them a pass, and that's what they'll have. For the user fee, it's either per head or per car. Details to be worked out. But with that, we're going to need staff to be there. So we talked about having students there, maybe from 8 until noon or 8 until 1. We always have somebody, a full-time staff that's on call and within the area anyway. So if there's any need to call them for assistance, they're readily available. And really, we're not trying to reduce the amount of people. We just want them to be more respectful. And we want them to use our beach, but in a respectful way. But we also recognize that it costs a lot of money to continue operating and maintaining the beach and the washrooms. And Iroquois is going to need an upgrade in their washrooms eventually for accessibility purposes, which there's a cost to it. And if we can generate some money to put back, again, to your point on the electric chargers, if we can generate some money to put back into the beach and into the washrooms and the pathways and all that good stuff, we believe that's a benefit. So yeah, there's a lot of discussions of Iroquois and Mooresburg. There are some challenges with entryways and exitways and whatnot, but I think we can come up with a plan to suit. So that was the purpose of the meeting. So David, I don't know if you want to take it over from there and dive into more details.
Because we have it on agenda and discussion. so
perfect.
we'll Pick it up from there. Yeah, so that's the
Okay, so
update
we'll
from
pick
the
it up from
committee.
there. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Councilor Mina, did you guys have a meeting as well, or? Okay, you were on the road. Okay, Deputy Mayor,
Yeah, thank you. So just give me a second here. Yes, so I attended that meeting. I actually did a double duty that night. I started off at the waterfront meeting, and then I had to go to the education meeting, and then I
yes.
went back to the meeting. But no, there was an agenda. I'm just going to go over what the agenda items. We had a presentation from John Johnson on the United Empire signage. He already created the final sign for Iroquois, and he was presenting the Mooresburg sign. Had a couple ideas, bounced a couple ideas off the committee members. So I think that he'll put that in production and hopefully have that ready by the spring, and we'll get that installed. We did not talk about the joint meeting because we had already talked about that the night before. We talked about the accessibility mat. Community Living, Dundas Community Living is going to generously give us, I think it was $4,000 towards the accessibility mat. I think it was agreed upon by your committee, Cole, that the money that's been allocated towards committee will pay for the remainder of the accessibility mat. So both Iroquois and Mooresburg are very excited to see how that will roll out and see how long and all that stuff and what's needed for it. So talked about that, and then Cole, again, they just continue talking about their beautification, picnic tables, receptacles, and all that good stuff. So like I say, I had to step out for about a half hour, but it was a good meeting. Nancy chaired the meeting, and she ran it pretty good. So talked about bike racks as well, David. They were toying with maybe trying to get a couple bike racks, one for the beach, one for near the dockside, but I'm not sure if they just landed maybe just one for the beach now, but they were going to reach out to you and hopefully come up with a plan that there was a thought maybe you might have even had some readily available, but if not, maybe they purchase one and go from there. And then again, they just reconfirmed that they're going to do the bonfire again. And they talked about increasing the events during the day. We also said that Iroquois is going to run the same event, but maybe we'll intermix, maybe have offset weekends or offset days. You do a Saturday, we do Sunday, and have different events so both communities can enjoy them. So
That's great.
that was
That's good.
discussed.
Yeah, Councilor Smith?
Yeah, just a question for the deputy mayor. Was the accessibility mats for the beach, was that at Iroquois or Mooresburg?
Mooresburg, it's gonna be in Mooresburg, Counselor, because they have the washroom that's already accessibility, ready. So they thought the best, pilot project was let's put them in Mooresburg. And then I think the push is we want to do it in Iroquois, but then we need the bathrooms upgraded as well, right? So. It's a shorter run. And it is a shorter run, and the base of the beach is much different. If you can imagine, it's much rockier here in Mooresburg because of the wash in and the washout. They get a lot of rock, where in Iroquois is kind of isolated there a little bit, right? So I think it's going to be, my opinion, I think it's going to be a great benefit for Mooresburg to start with.
Fantastic. Thank you, Deputy. Councilor Ward, Youth Wellness Committee? And their
Yes,
event?
so our event that we had at Seaway District High School was really well attended. So grades 7 and 8 attended, as well as 9 through 12. The Parks and Rec staff, Melissa, was there, and she really promoted our youth committee as well, trying to get new members. And also there were lots of opportunities for youth to learn about wellness in the community. There was yoga going on. There was some individuals there talking about gut health and physiotherapy and chiropractic services. So lots of opportunities for the youth to engage with providers in our community for those services. And then also there was a table there for our new youth hub, which I think got a lot of traffic. I looked to David there, but it got a lot of traffic. So a lot of excitement about that opening and about the activities that'll be coming. And a lot of the youth are very excited that they actually get to have input on what that will look like. So I think it's important to often, as you know, I'm an advocate for, is make sure the youth have a voice, and that center, allowing them to design that is a big thing for them. We heard a lot of feedback on that. So yeah, it was great. We have our first meeting, actually, it'll be next week. So we'll touch base about what we want to do next, but it was a great turnout and they did a great job.
Awesome. And to just add on the health wellness piece, 2 points. One, I attended one of the grade 7 and 8s were there, and there was a lot of interaction with different tables, and they were chatting and enjoying the time. So hats off to Councillor Ward and the team and the youth for sure that made all that happen. And on the Friday before that, I was reading at Iroquois Public School. And if my book didn't take up the whole time, I took questions, and the grade 5 and 6s had a lot of questions for me. And one of the questions was about the youth and what, we need more things to do. So I started to talk about the wellness center that we're in the construction building. So they were quite interested in, what are we able to do there and that. So they were very inquisitive on that. So, when they get to grade 7 and 8 or a little older, they can be part of the youth working group for sure. So I enjoyed some excitement on that. So, and hats off to all the community members, including Chris. Everybody called him Krusty at the Chris Wooters, Krusty at the school. He was a big hit reading to the youth. Myself, MP Duncan was there, and a lot of the junior hockey players were there. They had a floor hockey game, so we had some good fun reading some books for sure. So continue to work with our youth. Okay, Deputy Mayor. Rural Education Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, we had a quick meeting last week. The basis of the meeting was really to discuss delegation requests for the upcoming Good Roads Convention. So we will be putting in a delegation. And it was just about what do we want to discuss with the minister or the minister's assistant, whomever, if we are successful. So it was really just continuing that discussion, advocate for our rural schools. One of the things, and again, I said this in open forum at our meeting, and I'm not saying that we need to shame school boards, but one of the mandates that came to us a couple of years ago was that municipalities are supposed to collaborate with the school boards. And we have reached out, Chair Manley have reached out to a couple of the school boards with no responses. and we keep trying to get meetings so we can have a fruitful discussion. So we will be bringing that to the attention of, hopefully, if we do get a delegation. But again, it'll be, as Canadian as we are, we'll be very polite and diplomatic, but we will bring that to their attention that, you know, you want us to collaborate in rural schools, we want them to be viable. We need their participation just as much as our participation. So, yeah, all good. So we're hoping to get that delegation.
Good. In the last committee, we had SCG Library Board meeting last week in Williamsburg, so Dundas was the host. We started off, we met early so we could discuss our book club. So we read the book, Where Crawdaddy Sings. So we had the opportunity to discuss the book, which I read and watched the movie the night before. So I had lots of fresh ideas about both, the differences. It was a lot of fun to engage on that and to understand. And we're going to do it again. We got another book pick to understand what book clubs, how they act and interact. So as we continue to promote the library, just a few things on the agenda of note, technology plan. So we've done a good job updating our entire list of all the technology we have so we can start asset management planning that. And then we have our maker lab. So we have in Finch, we have a 3D printer and a Cricut and a button maker and a lot of things at Finch. And some of those items move around to branch. And we have just a marketing plan on that maker lab. And then maybe in the future, introducing a few of those activities in our branches more often. So that was good on the library board. And then at the end, we had a celebration, 10 years of the Friends of the Library. So it's a community groups, you know, in all communities where they have a library, they may form a Friends of the Library group. And we have an active one in Williamsburg that love their library. And back, you know, obviously when they closed and had a depot and then reopened in the new rec building or the addition of the rec building, they've been very active in that. So we had some cake and a few door prizes from the county's library committee and celebrated and took a big picture of the group celebrating 10 years of the Williamsburg Friends of the Library. So thank you to all those friends that continue to support the library and their community. Deputy Mayor.
Mayor Broad, just before you get into number 9, the consent agenda, and I apologize, I actually meant to include item C as well as part of that discussion.
Okay, C, got it.
It
Okay.
just all rolls out into
Yeah,
one, so
okay.
I mean, whether
Yeah,
you
we can-
pass it or just
got
roll,
it.
it's all one big.
Okay, so we'll just, same topic.
topic.
Okay, so, all right, very good. So consent agenda, 9A, the KR appointing Iroquois Waterfront Committee. B, information is tied Warden Caucus. F, resolution municipality of Northern Bruce. G, resolution municipality of Northern Bruce cell towers. And H, resolution 40 area provincial health election care advocacy. So I have a motion that we accept all those items on the consent items. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. And then we'll do the discussion items already planned, and then we'll come back to the resolutions. So we'll start off with 10A, Morrisburg Iroquois Beach increased usage. So Director Jansen.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you guys already heard a little bit from the Deputy Mayor, we did have a joint meeting last week. Typically, the joint meeting only has the chair and an extra member from each committee. This time we invited as many people as could come from both committees. We wanted to have I think there was 10, 11 of us. So it was a good discussion, I will say. Like, you know, obviously we got onto a few topics a little deep and into the weeds, like you would with 10, 12 people all discussing such a good topic. But we had some really fruitful discussions, and there were some different ideas, different things that came from it. And I honestly, I was quite happy with how the discussion went that day. It was a follow-up. We provided them with the report that council got at the Committee of the Whole in November, and that was, the joint committee was one of the objectives that council wanted us to go forward with from there. So that we almost kind of went through that agenda, and at the end, it kind of said, we whittled it down to implementing a little bit of a user fee for the weekends was kind of the recommendation that we got that day whenever we discussed in November. And also the committee basically agreed and provided some feedback on the implementation, I think. Obviously, I put a literally rough report in discussion. I didn't have much time to prepare it as the meeting was just last week. But it has been taking up a fair amount of time in my head every single day here recently. Every day I think of another little thing that I got to think of to implement this in the next 3 months. It's for about 20 to 23 days that we're looking at, because we're looking at just doing Saturdays and Sundays and holidays. So it's 20 to 23 days here in the weekend, depending on exactly when we start and stuff like that, and when we finish. So I'm just going to break down some of the little points that I have for implementation. Ultimately, you know, It's still definitely a little bit of a work in progress. So if council has anything further that they'd like to add, or maybe something that you'd like to see as I get ready to implement it, come back to council, let me know. And I can just work that into my workflow here as we're working through here. Currently, my goal is next week. We're looking at putting out a few more of our summer positions, and I want to include a beach attendant in there. The deputy mayor mentioned students. That's not really the route I'm looking to go. I know we have disagreed on it a little bit. So we're looking at putting out a job description. I'm looking to go 25 plus, just to try and get some adults in the role. Ultimately, we do have staff available and we do have staff on call. Our cleaning crew typically works about, I want to say 4 a.m. to noon, depending on which staff member it is. Some do 3 a.m. to 11 or something like that. So there's a big chunk of the day where they'd actually be phoning the person on call, and I don't want to get in the habit of increasing our on-call usage either. We're looking at, I think it's going to be difficult to recruit. I don't really know what to expect. So we're going to put the job application out there. I do think in today's gig economy, and there's a lot of people who are looking for a little extra income. So if we put the job out there, 25, 30 bucks an hour type of thing, you're giving up every weekend and every holiday in the summer. So we're thinking 2 6-hour shifts, sort of 8 a.m. to 2, and then 10 to 4. So that way they get a nice little overlap there in the middle of the day, probably the busiest part of the day, and they can relieve each other a little bit. They'll be responsible for user fee collection. In Iroquois, I'm thinking I'll put them around for anybody who's been down there, by the rocks by the airport. In Mooresburg, we're thinking there's the little walking path that heads towards the pavilion. We'll get them a tent, we'll set them up there. We'll probably, in the logistics side of it, have to buy a little bit of, I call it event fencing, the metal event fencing that just to sort of direct people to always come that route. And in all honesty, we're always gonna have the people who are trying to jump the gate. And I sit there, and when I'm scrolling on the internet, I see the little people who sneak into the Super Bowl and stuff like that. If the Super Bowl can't keep people out, then we're not going to be able to keep everybody off the beach. So there's always going to be people who are going to try and beat the system. But if we're catching 80, 90% of the people, I think we're doing pretty good. And hopefully by catching 90% of the people, they'll help, not too aggressively, but they'll help police the 10%. They'll guilt the other 10% into also participating as well. So that's sort of the hiring attendance. And ultimately, if I put out the job posting and then we don't get people, then maybe it's a discussion we have and we see if we can get some students or something like that, and we just increase the number of people. But my preference is to get people 25 plus. They're going to be handling money. They're going to be handling people. It's a pretty tough job, and I'd like to get the right people in the role. From a logistics, there's a lot of signage to create here. As the deputy mayor pointed out, we are talking about a lot of rules. So we'll have to review with bylaw and the clerk's department to maybe update some of our fire, to restrict fires there. We're looking at restricting tent structures, which is becoming a bit more common on beaches. So no bringing your 10 by 10 portable tent and setting up, but you're still allowed to bring umbrellas. So implementing some new rules there and getting that underway. And then, like I sort of mentioned, the temporary fences. So there's a little bit of logistic stuff for us to sort out there. On the resident side, and a great discussion that we had with the committee, do we charge for parking? How do we get residents in? Stuff like that. So Melissa's already started looking at it on the Perfect Mind system. So we're going to look at, there's a few other municipalities that have already implemented a season pass type of thing. But the thing is, residents are likely, I'm going to require them to pre-register. So if you show up and try and show your driver's license, unfortunately, that's not registering to go to the beach. You're probably still going to have to pay the $5. It's sort of where I'm trying to set it. Like, if you're not willing to take the 3 minutes to do the pre-registration, then you might end up still charging. I'll use Councillor Smith as an example here. Sorry, Councillor Smith. It's hard for me to have a beach attendant there and then be responsible for knowing that Orville Road is a road in South Dundas that is okay for Councillor Smith, or it's not a boundary road and stuff like that. So just to make it a little easier on the attendant, that there is a pre-registration system. On the financial side, I've started to have a little bit of preliminary discussions with the treasurer / interim CAO. So we will look at, I don't think it could be a cash-only system in today's society. Nobody goes to the beach with a pile of cash on them. So we'll have to look into getting a couple Moneris machines, maybe some battery packs to keep them charged throughout the day, just to collect the fee. We'll get a new revenue line, and hopefully after this year, we'll have all the data. And I don't think, as much as I lay there every night and come up with another thing for this list, I don't think we're going to get it perfect this year. But whatever we do, it's going to be a step in the right direction, and we can take the data that we collect this year. How much revenue are we getting? How much of this are we getting? And on that same thing, I'm looking at putting cash in, at least to start. We'll get them a little cash box and we'll go from there. But in honesty, it could go 4 weeks and I'm giving them a $100 float and they're coming back to me with $110. Well, maybe it's not worth even implementing a cash system, but I just want that data before I take that option away. From there, I got some council approvals, so we'll have to modify a fee bylaw. I haven't gone in depth. I took a quick little look at like the Parks Commission and stuff like that, but I'll do a better dive with some comparables and try and come up with a fee that's reasonable, whether it's a family structure or whether it's a per person structure. I'm kind of leaning to a per person structure. Every individual who comes, set fee, and we'll keep it relatively small. But at the same time, I do want to respect that, you know, there are some people who might be coming with, you know, a family of 6 and, you know, this might be the only recreation that they can afford. So maybe we put a cap in, but then it gets difficult to police, you know, who's a family, who isn't a family type of thing. So you'll see that come back, and that might be a chance for me to bring anything else that you guys want an update on. When I bring the fee bylaw back, you guys can ask a few more questions, or I'll be a little further along in my implementation.
Yeah, I think a good one, just to I'll give you a breath to take for a second. Knowing what the St. Lawrence parks do, like somewhere close to that, that'd be good information for us to know, right? Because that's the comparable.
Yeah, I think
right,
their
or what-
walk-in is
Yeah,
455
yeah.
or something
So
like
as long
that.
as we as long as we know that too, that'd be good to know when we're discussing.
Outside of that, like the funding, so we have funding to implement this. As you guys know, there was $30,000 approved in budget this year. We did spend some of that already on garbage cans, but we do still have about $23,000 left in the budget this year to help with the implementation. So the hiring of those beach attendants, like, we don't have to rely on the revenue, yes, because the revenue is an unknown at this point. We don't know what we're going to get. And there is Moneris machines, there is a tent, there is some, but we have funding ready to implement by those fences. So this is just me providing council with a little bit of direction on what that capital spending is going to be. It's spread out very far, and in all honesty, it's likely going to be offset by some revenue, but that's an unknown revenue at this point. And then lastly, for council reporting, I'll bring a report in the fall, obviously with, you know, how it went and give you guys an update. But that's sort of where my head's at as to how I'd like to see it implemented here over the next 3 months. Obviously, it's a big undertaking, but I think the committee is excited, and both committees were excited to start working on the rule signs and stuff like that. So I'll have some support and feedback from the committees and in some of that stuff. And obviously, some of it is just straight operations, and I'll take care of all that part. But if council has any questions, or if there's anything that, you know, you have any ideas or anything that you want to tweak in there, now is a great time to work it into this sheet of paper that's in front of me.
Yeah, no, thank you, Director. Yeah, I think the Deputy Mayor's comments earlier, you know, our beaches are getting much more busier, so now's the time to come up with some interventions to help with that. So I think, you know, for people that I've talked to, maybe some social media posts over the years, should be quite popular, right? The user pay for non-residents, which, you know, I think will be popular. So like you said, we'll get some data and we'll get going on that. So I think that's great to, at least we're discussing it and have a plan. Yeah. Councilor Ward?
Thank you, Mayor. So I just, through you, Mayor, to the director, I think I agree with you on the age for the attendant. And I apologize, Mark, but I just think that, you know.
All I was saying is what we discussed.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I just think too, it's your first year of implementation. If you ask a student to be there, I think it's just a lot to give responsibility. So I agree with you. I think it's a good idea for someone who's maybe over the age of 25 and can handle that type of environment. I think too, the signage is going to be key, like you already talked about, so definitely. And then I'm hoping we're going to do a communications plan to our residents so that they're not getting there and then finding out they have to pay. And I know you guys are probably on top of that, but just, you know, start talking about it the earlier the better, because the earlier. And I just wanted one question, if I could, Mayor, as well.
Yes.
So when you pre-register, can you pre-register for the whole summer? Because that would be beneficial, I would think, because
Yeah, you're already
sometimes
on the
plans
list, right,
change
yeah.
and, okay.
So through you, Mayor, Brad, the example that Melissa already sent me of a different municipality, they do a season's pass. And you, like her, and the struggle wasn't, you'd end up registering for the entire summer and you'd end up with the same pass. The struggle we were gonna have would be for yourself, like registering your entire family, especially if we're gonna charge per user.
Right.
Making sure that you have the ability to register and we have documentation that you've registered your entire family. So that's more the logistics side that I think we're looking at, but it will probably be a register for the entire season.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Vito, yeah.
Through you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, that all sounds very good. One of my biggest questions was about the season pass for residents and if we could do it through our existing system, but you answered that. I don't want to pile on anything else, but I thought it's kind of maybe along the same lines right now, and I don't know if it's the same person at each location that could do this, because then you'd be walking away from your post, I guess. But both boat launches, I think, need to get back to a bit of a user pay system like they were whenever I remember when I was a kid, my dad would have to go back to the office in Williamsburg and get his $25 boat launch pass that sat on the dash. And that was for residents. They paid, I think it was $25. And then we had a cash box at the ramp on the pier, right? And so outside users were supposed to put that in there. I don't know if there's a way that, I don't know how our ticketing system works here or anything, but if periodically that person from the beach walked down there, and if somebody didn't have it, that we could ticket them somehow, I don't know. Anyways, it's just, it'd be nice if, maybe we'll see how this pilot project goes and see what that looks like, but it would be nice to try to get back to something, because our boat ramps and docks are requiring a lot of repair, and it'd be nice to see a little bit of revenue from it.
So through you, Mayor Broad, 100% baby steps, baby steps. But I will say, like, so, and I'm sure Councilor Vino's aware, Edwardsburg Cardinal just rolled out theirs last year, and I reached out to them last fall and got a full breakdown, and, you know, they actually had a pretty good success. I think it was about 50-50. They had about 60 residents register and about 60 out-of-town users pay through a QR code system type of thing. And so I got a little bit of feedback from them on how it went. So it's definitely in the works, and we're collecting the data, but I'd say it's a baby steps for now.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayor Broad. I 100% agree with you, Councillor, that to be quite frank with you, I think it can be easily implemented for our docking system with a QR code. I mean, I go to the Senators games, and it's a QR code for the parking now. It's so super simple. And I think we could probably implement that. I think the one thing though is if somebody would need a ticket to put on their dash, so maybe it's a kiosk box or something, but I'm with you on that. I think we should get a handle on that as well, for both Iroquois and Mooresburg. And yeah, no, I appreciate everybody's feedback. It's all part of the stuff that we did discuss. I totally agree on the age. I think for the first year or two, we should get somebody a little bit more older. My example to David in the group was, you know, I go to national parks, Banff and all that. And when you go to the ticket booth, it's usually a student. But recognizing, as you said, that there's always adults behind there that's working 24/7 as well. So I'm totally in agreement with you guys. I just think this is a good plan, a good start. There's going to be some nuances. We know there's going to be some nuances with it, but let's just try something, and we'll just keep massaging it as we go. And to Councillor's point, I mean, on our water permits, on our fire recreational permits, is it just once a year as well right now? Yeah, so we could do the same thing on the beach, just register once a year, and then it's done. So yeah, good points. Good points.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. So I was just, the first thing I thought of when you mentioned about having 2 staff at each beach with about 12 hours. So just the quick math, like 12 hours, if you think $25 an hour, like that's $300. Are we going to generate enough revenue to at least cover that?
Yes, I think, I think Director kind of mentioned it, that, you know, we have some funds that, you know, we got to get it going, for sure. And we don't know the numbers, right? We don't know the numbers exactly, but Deputy Mayor, you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, we had, it was actually a question I think we discussed a little bit, and I asked, because I don't go to Iroquois, but I do go to Mooresburg, and there's probably a couple hundred people, 250 people a day, that uses the Mooresburg. And when we talked about Iroquois, they thought it was around 1,000 or if not more. So, you know, if you were to do it as quick math, and I know you would do this, at $5 a head, it's not long, you're over a 20-day period that you're generating enough money. Now, the other thing on the hours, again, to get refined, but my thought on the hours was not, they don't need to be there 12 hours a day. They need to be there probably from 8 until maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, because after 2 o'clock, there's not a lot of turnover after that, right? So that was our thoughts, but, you know, again, the hours of operation and whatnot will just have to be worked out. But yeah, we had discussed that a little bit as well.
Yeah, no, because I was just, as much as I'm not a fan of the digital world, it's a lot simpler and easier just to have somebody drive up to, especially at Iroquois, halfway down, just put like a wigwam there. You just go up and scan your phone or your QR code, and there it goes open. Like there's a way that we.
Yeah, and I think,
that would take some
I
investment,
don't
though, but
disagree
yes.
with that. But I also think, like, we're trying to also manage tents and people having taking the picnic tables for the whole day, and, you know, the garbage management. Not that they're specifically responsible, but that's all going to be part of what they see and can follow up, answer questions for. So I think it's a bigger picture, right, on that. You know, we get the feedback in the fall when we did that, you know, people will know we have our eyes on it too, right? You know, so that's good, right? And that people are there, so.
Yeah, to your point, Counselor, I think, because I agree with you, I think the implementation phase for this, first year, 2, 3, having people at each location is the way it needs to be to try to monitor and see how it's gonna go. But I think down the road, I'd like to see it go digital some way, and then maybe you have one staffer that's going between each, just kind of keeping an eye on making sure there is no tents up and stuff like that. I think hopefully it can morph into that. But I do think we need some people on the ground for the first little while, because there's gonna be a lot of people that have been coming here for 3 or 4 years now, that it's gonna be a shock when they show up and we ask them for some cash, so,
Yeah.
or a tap.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Councilor Ward?
May I ask a question?
Yeah,
Mayor, through you to the director. What is the, so the attendant is collecting money. Are they also monitoring the amount of parking spots that are left? I'm particularly thinking of Iroquois, right? So there's a limited amount of parking spots, so I would think that they would count the cars as they come in, hopefully. And I know that not everyone knows how to park properly, but hopefully that would account for the amount of spaces. I'm just wondering too, if we could gather that data, because I think in the long term too, for Morrisburg, I know they're talking about another parking lot. I know they're talking about where that's gonna go, how big it should be. But I think having that data too, if that person can monitor that data as well as how many cars show up to pay or whatever, because I think it would help you and your groups determine how big those parking lots need to be. And I know when I go somewhere out of town and I'm expected to pay, I would hope that there's parking available. And hopefully we'll also have a solution for that come in due time, because it's a little bit, especially in Iroquois too, when parking fills up, it overflows onto the streets in front of people's houses. People are blocking people's driveways. It's just an ongoing battle. So if we could just get that data, I would appreciate that, and we can go from there.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
Director.
through you, Mayor Broad, this was definitely a big discussion, and I'll be honest, when the discussion started at the joint committee, I was pay for parking, not pay for use of the beach, and I actually got flipped to, and I'm kind of trying to avoid talking too much about the parking problem, because both beaches have a huge parking problem, and in all honesty, like in Morrisburg, if we wanted to provide enough parking for the beach users, well, there's no waterfront left. Now we have a giant parking lot and a beach. So it's trying to find that happy balance, and that's why we're sort of aiming towards a user pay for the beach, and then parking is a bit of a crapshoot, for lack of a better word, like, but it will help. Like in Iroquois, we have good discussions at committee, like after the rocks on Adair Road, if the cars park, parallel park bumper to bumper versus just pull in and angle park, it doubles how many cars you can get in. So if the attendant meets the first person once it's full and is able to tell them, hey, just nose in here, all of a sudden, we're going to be, our
Double,
overflow is going to be much better.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it'll help a little bit with overflow. It's definitely not going to solve our parking problem, because the only thing that's going to solve that is a lot of money and a lot of parking spots.
And if we have new parking, we want to be able to pay for upkeep of that parking. We have,
I think the data is all we
Yeah,
need
no,
to
absolutely,
start,
no, I
and
was,
we'll figure that out after.
making a side comment on, us owning parking lots. Yeah, very good. Any other comments? Yeah, Councilor Ward?
Yeah, so, and you were mentioning about if we put in any new parking, then I'm thinking about how there is a plan from the Morrisburg waterfront to do perhaps angled parking along
Yeah.
Canada Way, so it's hard to charge them parking if your parking pay point is at the access to the beach, well, everybody's just gonna park on the side of the street in the angle parking or whatever it is, and then just walk in, so that there has to be a way that you have to be able to figure that out.
Yeah,
if
no,
we're
of course,
gonna-
yeah,
But that'll be
Yeah.
years down the road.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely all things to be considering for sure. Okay. Excellent. Okay, 10B, strategic plan, work plan. Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad. And to council, before you is our work plan that we've been collaborating with municipal staff to get this in front of you. So as you know, in January, council approved the 2024 to 2028 strategic plan. The plan is built on 3 pillars, so operational excellence, a growing connected community, and sustainable and dynamic growth. So as I mentioned, over the past several weeks, staff have been engaged in a collaborative process to get this work plan in front of you. So the purpose of the discussion tonight is to provide council with an update on the progress of implementing this plan, and the ongoing initiatives and actions that staff are continuously working on or planning to work on. So we're just building on the momentum achieved through the development of this plan, and staff are planning to provide a mid-year review in July of 2025. So it includes several action items. With those action items are individual tasks that staff will be reviewing on a regular basis at our team meetings. So it's a very high level, the document that you
Yeah,
have.
what I wanted to add on, just, by looking at it, because you mentioned it, there's tasks behind the levels, right? And today,
Yes.
we're not actually looking at the tasks, we're just getting the feel for sharing what your work plan looks like, yeah.
Correct,
So
yes.
that's right, okay.
So for every action, there might be 10 or 12 tasks. But it would have been a really, really long document if we would have given that to you. So like I said, the actions are high level, and for every action, we have our individual tasks. You'll see that we have project leads for each action item. However, this is fluid. So as we kind of progress into the work plan, it might change. And then we have a section for budget, staff time. Again, some of these are estimates, but as we get into the work, we'll be able to adjust the, I guess, the budget if it's going to be higher than we anticipated or lower than we anticipated. This is a workable document. But for tonight, definitely happy to answer any questions, or if there's specific things that you're looking to see on the strat plan that you might not be visible, but is on our task list, I'm happy to confirm any of that. So, but with that, any questions, we're happy to answer some.
Yeah, I think just to add on, so, worked with CO Mills, we kind of was kicking this off, and then Clerk LeBrun and CO have continued to work on it, just to add on. So to think about, in the future, we'll come to the meetings committee of the whole, maybe it's directives, key IRs that are going to come with the whole, a list of the task list that we were working on, and we're going to link. And then when there's requests, link it. Hey, this is where the link was. Hey, we said we wanted to, celebrate youth accomplishments. Okay, this is linking. Okay, these are the things we're doing to do that, right? And one of them is at the awards, business awards, we have a youth volunteer award, right? So those are the things that we'll see connecting all the dots and all the tasks behind the scenes. So we'll keep coming back, and then I'm sure the deputy mayor and I will see a bunch of these at the ECDev table that we work on, or you guys at the waterfront. There should be things that directly connect the dots to our strat plan and the tasks we're working on. So, and really, I think the key one, operational excellence, which we continue to strive for. So, Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and through you, just to add on what you were mentioning, our reports are also going to have a section that brings back our action requests, our information reports that will bring it back to the strategic
What's the link?
plans and what's the link and how we accomplish it. So I think moving forward, you're going to have some reports that will have a more clear alignment with the strategic plan.
Cool. Councilor Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. I just have a few comments, if I could, through you, Mayor, and some of them maybe are to the clerk and then other directors. So on page 124, there's just two that I have that I'd like to, and they could be in a task, I don't know. Under develop wellness initiatives for children, youth, and adults, I would like to add, Mayor, if I could, and I don't know if this is the form to do it, if I have to pass a motion or what.
No, this is it.
Director Jansen and I have had a discussion about increasing daycare availability in our community. So as our community continues to grow, we attract young families, and young families want to work here. But if there's no opportunities for them to have daycare or et cetera, we did have this discussion a little bit when I talked to it at the delegation that we had last council meeting. But I know Director Jansen has already kind of helped me out a little bit. So if we could make that kind of a task as well, I think, I'm not saying the municipality take on a daycare. I'm just saying that we reach out and we find opportunities for growth there.
Well, I know we did talk at our community active meeting about that, and just for us to know the rules, the regulations, what it takes. Like if we have a piece of property available, hey, could we use that? Well, no, there's no green grass, there's no fence in an area, right? Whatever all the things you might need to have a daycare that's currently built or something, we're gonna be looking for that. So just knowing what it takes and then how many spots we have today, because, and then thinking of our growth, right? How many spots, we should plan for and then promote through that. So yeah, you're bang on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, Councillor, just add on,
Yeah, just maybe a quick win on that one. As a municipality, we could at least come up with a directory, because I know I see on Facebook and stuff, people are always commenting, they move here, they're new. Hey, does anybody know of any daycares around? Anybody taking kids right now? If we had a directory on our website or something that took to account everybody in South Dundas that's currently providing daycare, at least then that gives some contacts for those people to look to maybe try and get in. So that might be a quick win in that regard.
Yeah, good, yeah.
My second one is also under the same item. It's just doctor recruitment, and it's just a comment. So I know that we have a relationship with South Stormont, and I know we're working with them. However, I'd really like to see us also turn our attention to the north. And the only reason I'm saying that is because they seem to have an easier time with doctor recruitment. They just got 2 new doctors in North Dundas. That's a big win for them, but maybe, partnering with the hospital, maybe looking at options to the north. I don't know if that's been explored, maybe it has been, but I think it's a time to collaborate. We need doctors, so if that's not a task, if we could just maybe look in that direction at some point, those are the only 2 things I really wanted to mention.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I've got a different spin on that one. I don't think we should be just specific to south or north. I think this needs to be, I agree with you, it needs to be on there. I think this needs to go to a county level, because the county is doing doctor recruitment. And I think as a collaboration with all the local municipalities, that should be a bigger picture than just, yeah. So I agree with you. I just think there's a bigger picture on that one as well.
We can revise.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yes.
On that, Mayor Broad, and through you, just as an update, we actually are coordinating a meeting right now with the counties, St. Lawrence Medical Clinic. I think that's a great suggestion to include northern townships, I guess, in those discussions. So we can definitely add that to our task list.
Councillor Reno. Oh, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, and this would be a question for you guys, and excuse my ignorance if this is already a thing, but is there a working group at the county right now that involves a member of each municipality specifically for doctor recruitment?
No.
Might be something to bring up to the
And
counties.
that's where I was kind of going with the comment that I had. I think we should be creating, or suggesting we create a group at that level, because to me, that is one of them things, and it's the same discussion debate we've had in terms of the planning department. That is one thing that almost every municipality has some sort of clinic, some sort of hospital, some sort of medical facility. So I think that needs to be a bigger discussion, and to get us all on the same page. Because one of the things we found out was when we went to Roma, we sat on a panel, and it was a nurse, a head doctor,
Administrator.
your buddy, Mr. Steve Pelican, and that was one of the things they you like that? That was one of the things they actually discussed with all the municipalities offering financial incentives and offering this and that. They prescribe that as all we're all under the Hunger Games now. And we're all doing the same thing. So this is, to me, is an opportunity where we just need to collectively collaborate. You've said it, I've said it. If North Dundas gets a doctor, it is a direct benefit for us. If North Glengarry gets a doctor, it's a direct benefit for us. If we get a doctor, it's a direct benefit to the other communities, because people traveling to South Dundas to get to their doctor may relieve them closer to where they live. So we've been on that kind of debate a little bit. So maybe the Mayor Broad and I need to amp that up a little bit and talk to the warden, talk to Maureen, and see if we can get that on the docket, that we create kind of an overall working group. But thank you for doing that, and maybe you can start that discussion as well.
Other comments or questions at this point? No, okay, we're gonna see this quite often, and this will be stuff we're gonna be working on, as the direct link. Okay, so adding discussion items, so we pulled tariff, so like I say, the three ones on the C, D, and E, so talking about the warden's tariff advocacy resolutions, so certainly, and it was kind of what I wanted to add as well, notice a motion the same, so it's all kind of all the same topic, so which leads to the procurement as well, right? So thinking about all of tariffs in general. Premier Ford did say in a press conference 2 days ago, you know, we need to be looking at a procurement policy and making sure that we're buying Canadian, right? So I wanted to, you know, have a discussion, you know, and if we're interested in having the clerk work back to look at our procurement policy and move that way. And then obviously the resolutions that go along with any of the tariffs that are pointed out. But I'll let you go, Deputy Mayor, as well, because you wanted to speak on the kind of the two topics that kind of combined, right?
No, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it since you started with the Border Alliance and the Mayor's Border Alliance and talking about that. I mean, we all know that we're in a volatile world right now. We know what we're hearing, but we don't know what the full results are yet. We won't know, but I think that it has impacted some businesses immediately. Some businesses we won't know until 2-3 months down the road, and some businesses won't know until 6, 8, 10 months down the road, and that's just the way it always turns out. You know, and just reading the South Glengarry resolution, I kind of like that. I think we should support it. Think we should have our own motion. And there's two specific things that I still come back to, other than the tariffs that's being imposed, is our cross-provincial trade agreements. We need to reduce the tariffs or eliminate the tariffs from our cross-provincial trading. And the second thing I would like to see in this motion to the federal government is that they need to eliminate our carbon tax to relieve the pressure, the financial pressures that we're going to face. And there's two items in there that Canada needs to do a better job as we are harping and as we are fighting the trade war with the U.S., we need to do a better job. And I'd like them two statements in our resolution as well.
Yeah, that on that, and that's the pivot point where the Mayor Border Alliance have talked. So the first month we were meeting, we were talking about reach out to your U.S. counterpart. Let's make relationships to talk about those things. But it's pivoting now to lobbying our governments, provincial, federally, on the things that will help each municipality individually. So those are exactly the things that we need to do to pass on to the Borders Alliance. And so it's the bigger picture, and you know, talk about big city mayors. You know, it counts when we get together.
No, and I agree with you. And again, I said that I think it's worth being on the Mayor's Alliance. There's no doubt about it. But at some point in time, we need to look after ourselves, whether we're on the Mayor's Alliance or not. And we need to stand up to say, look, we're friendly neighbors, but we can only be so friendly. So you need to go back to the Trump administration. You need to tell them and continue telling them how it's going to hurt them just as much as us. You know that. And I'm on a soapbox, but it is what it is. We're just coming out of COVID. We're just starting to get our economy working in the right direction. Interest, our dollar was getting stronger. Interest rates were starting to drop so people could purchase homes and purchase businesses and purchase cars and purchase everything. If our dollar tanks more, you know what happens? Inflation's going to go up, interest rates going to go up, and we're back in the same boat as what we were a year and a half ago, and probably worse. So it's time to stand beside our lower tier, upper tier, our county councils, which is upper tier, our provincial, regardless who's in power, we need to stand beside our provincial and our federal government and get that message across somehow. So I know we're just a lower tier and we can only do so much, but we got to be there to support our upper level governments 100%. And we got to stick to our guns with it as well.
Yeah, so I think so far, resolutions and then the procurement to not buy American products. That's where we got to be looking for. And I know we may not buy a lot, but we do. So I think it's important that we stop And those industries can pass on to their governments how, lost an order to, a municipality in Ontario, right? And if every one, every day, lose another order. And the source of Canadian, that's a twofold win, right? To start to source things, some things. And certainly not buy them during a tariff war. If we have to defer for a year, that would be another option as well. Yeah, exactly.
This isn't about,
Yeah,
this isn't about like abandoning the ship
Yeah,
forever.
yeah,
It's just during this
Yeah.
trade war, we just need to stick with Canada.
yeah, for sure. Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So I just wanted to highlight too, that it might be worthwhile that the infrastructure department, so I'm looking to roads and water, sewer, also review your specs. And also for our subdivision design guidelines, we review our specs, because there might be something hard spec'd in there that is only created in the United States. That maybe an alternative could be, I know you've already said this, but there could be a Canadian alternative. So not just our purchasing power, but what we're also making developers do in this area, what we're making our contractors do. Because we might not be purchasing that, but they are. So I think that's also key is,
Right,
even if
right,
we
of
have to have a
course,
meeting with
right.
contractors to
Yeah.
understand that, I think that would be worthwhile, because I think they're hurting as well. They're going to hurt. So I think having those discussions, especially if we're doing any big infrastructure projects, I look at the parking lot, whatever's going on there, that might be a good way to also handle that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, and thank you, and you're bang on, and, you look at Velcraft and Tomlinson, and they're the contractors, but, again, I think I said this earlier, that I'm sure, I know, in the circle that I'm in, that the developers are starting to look at all the products, right from tile to carpet to cabinets to door handles to door, and listen, to be realistic, we can't purchase everything that's not, American made. There's gonna be American made products out there, but if we can reduce and pivot and eliminate, again, I keep going back to our own interprovincial trade agreements that needs to be revamped, make it easier, make it cheaper, carbon tax, then I think we set ourselves up in a better position. So to your point, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Councilor Reno.
Just a quick point, you touched on it, but I wanted to echo it. As Director Hyman said, we got lots of tenders coming up here with lots of things to purchase and whatnot. During a tariff war, if a pickup truck is gonna be ordered and then we're gonna get slapped with a 25% addition onto that just because of a tariff, we need to be having, our staff needs to be having discussions with our providers to make sure that we're insulated from any potentials like that. I know most of the trucks are on the ground and they're already here, and so the tariffs won't apply, but it may not just be pickup trucks, it could be stuff for our water plants, it could be anything like that. So we just need to make sure that in that procurement policy, that we're avoiding that at all cost.
Yeah, and I know earlier, Director Vilda of the water plant is already talking, quoting on some things that are just more expensive already, right? So even though we need it, it's gonna affect our bottom line. So yeah, things are happening.
Yeah, Mayor Rod, I gotta assume it's the same, my understanding, again, the circle that I have with parks development, that a lot of the gym equipment and playground equipment comes from the States as well. So if we have to defer for a year, I say we defer for a year. We just don't pay the tariffs. I know, but if we gotta defer for a year, we just defer for a year. That'd be my,
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, so I think we're early on, and I think we're aligned at this point, and we want to look at every purchase and look at our policy, make sure we have the right resolutions, and we'll start tomorrow morning. I'm with MPP newly elected MPP Quinn and MP Duncan, so we'll keep those conversations, as those are our avenues through to the provincial and federal governments. Very good. Any other final comments on that? No? Okay, Councillor Smith, resolution of Frontenac increasing the annual tile drain loan minimum.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. It's on page 108, if anybody wants to look it up.
Right.
So, I'm just gonna try and get it in front of me here.
It's on page 108.
Yeah, 108. I gotta get to 108. Almost there. So I wanted to support this resolution that came forward here from County of Frontenac. But before I did, I just had a few questions. This would be for acting CAO Stewart. So just generally overall in in our municipality, how popular is that program? How many users would we have of that? Do you have an idea right now? I don't really think it's that popular of a program right now.
Through you, Mayor Broad, I believe there's 2 currently.
Like it's
not-
very few. I do know that in, I think some other municipalities, it is fairly popular. It's just not very popular here. It's set at a set 6% interest rate, so that's why of late, it's not been that popular, because it's been 6% for interest for as long as I can remember. It's been 6%. So for the last number of years, we've been able to enjoy interest rates under 6% for the vast part of that. So that's why it hasn't been that popular. So, but the limit on the amount that could be borrowed right now is 50,000, correct?
correct.
Yeah, so I don't know, so going from 50 to 250, that's a big jump. Now, I don't know if that's maybe just like they're trying to lobby a little bit, just to try and get it increased a little, because it is a big jump, but, so I did some calling around today just to see, because I haven't tile drained anything myself for a few years, and so it would be, so a per acre price right now would be, at the low end would be 1,600 an acre, and a high end would be maybe 2,000 an acre for tile drainage. So if you bought, say, a 100-acre farm, you could be looking at $200,000 to tile drain it. So the 50,000 really does not go that far. Like, you'd be piecing a few pieces of
Yeah, 20 acres at a time.
funding from here, or funding from here, or funding from here, putting 2 or 3 things together to try and get to raise the money for it, or because a lot of people just don't have 200,000 in their bank accounts anymore. So, so I'd like to support that. But so the other question I had was, if say we ended up with, it probably wouldn't happen, but just say we ended up with 4 of these going at one time. Like, so the money comes in, money comes out, because we collect the money and then the money gets paid to, or sorry, the money comes to us and then we just handle it. We don't make anything off it. So does that, it was the insurance question. If we all of a sudden have 4 of these out and we raise our cash flow every year by $1 million, is that going to affect like insurance rates or anything like that? Is anything in our insurance tied to like our total budget for the year?
So through you, Mayor Broad, no, there's nothing in our insurance. And also, it doesn't affect our, I looked up our annual repayment limit. It's removed from that, so it really doesn't affect
It really
us.
doesn't affect anything.
So no impact to the municipality.
There'd be no
It's
impact.
just an in and out. So
Yeah.
that's good. No, that's a great question,
Yeah.
because you
A
wouldn't
bit of-
want to take on, a restriction.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
it restricts us.
It just
from
restricts us,
the-
right?
from
Even
the
though,
borrowing limit
even though we
from-
don't need the
from
cash, we
future,
don't want to
yeah.
be restricted.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question.
And so basically, I want to support that. And so now this one's coming from the county of Frontenac, but they were just supporting one, I believe, that came from another municipality. It was from, and I don't remember, it came from Adelaide and Metcalfe, which and I don't know if, I did not see the original one, but I guess it must be out there somewhere, that it's somewhere floating around. And anyways, the county of Frontenac supported it. So I'd like to support that motion, either the one that's here from Frontenac County or the original one from Adelaide Metcalfe, just to get that across OMAFRA's desk and some people at the provincial level to see if we get get that rate increased, even if it's not the 250, if it goes up to, because it hasn't been adjusted for inflation for quite some time.
Yeah,
So just to get it increased a bit.
Yeah, no, it's a benefit to our agricultural
Yeah.
group. That's good. Yeah, Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So the Ontario legislation is actually 75% of the work,
Correct.
but OMAFRA sets a limit every year. So it's been 50,000 forever. So I think I would more appreciate, instead of saying like 250 is the max, like I would just say get rid of, like, it's 75% of whatever the works are. Like, I would support that motion more, because then if you have 1,000 acres and you're tiling it, you get 75% of that cost back. Like, I'm just looking, farms are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? They're not smaller. So like, I would rather tell the Ontario government that, like, let's just remove that 50,000 cap altogether and keep the legislation that says 75,000% of a total project, rather than setting any limit. Because you and I both know that things are gonna get more expensive, as the discussion we just had. And you might have to just increase it again, but I would strongly advocate, would we just remove the cap at all and just do 75%? They have to pay it back, so it's not like they're getting it for free. So, I don't know, if you don't mind that, I would support that amendment to your motion, like, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. So so would the proper thing to do just to create a whole new resolution then, I guess, out of this? Okay, yeah.
So you will bring that back, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because it really is, well, I mean, there is risk that you're not gonna pay, but if they, because we have to pay it to, but it's, the risk is we don't collect it, because and then it's the same as like a property tax.
Right, yeah.
Issue. It takes some time, but eventually, you could,
Works out.
if it gets to the point, it could go for, like, force a sale, whatever,
Yeah,
yeah, same as the tax arrears, so it's very, very low risk for us,
Oh,
so.
that's good. Well, that's good. Yeah, no, that's like, I think with direction to bring back a
Yeah.
motion, and, resolution, and we can do, not just making it 75%, or both have the and/or in there as well, or whatever you,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah,
And it shows that we're supporting their,
Yeah.
it shows that we're supporting their resolution, but adding on to another option. I think that's a good idea.
yeah. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Councillor Smith, for that, and thanks for doing some research ahead of time on that, for sure. Okay, so I'll do a wrap-up, and then I'll have a motion for closed session, and then we'll do the ratification adjournment off camera, as we're gonna go into a closed session. So certainly lots of emotion happening with the tariff world, but I wanted to end on a high note with the hiring of our new CAO. So if you picked up the copy of the Morrisburg Leader or checked out any online versions, Director Ben DeHaan from SDNG Counties, Roads Director, is going to be our new CAO. So we are super excited to have him come. We're extremely proud that he thinks a lot of us as much as we think a lot of him in his work, and he'll be joining us on April on 7th. Monday, April 7th will be his first day, and we've worked out a little bit cross trained, so maybe a little back and forth over the two roles a little bit here and there, because we do work together. So Ben's going to bring a lot of experience in the roads side, planning side. He's an engineer, somebody to debate with Deputy Mayor, with David and I, yeah. And also, with his, a stint in North Dundas as CEO, learned a lot and had a now a aspiration to move on. So we're happy he was able to join us Monday. We took some pictures, we did a few interview questions, and got to look around, meet a bunch of our staff. So I know the staff are happy that we've got somebody coming in place to take on that role and celebrate that. So we'll end on a high note, celebrating that hire that we announced. And also congratulations, North Dundas have hired a CAO, Mina Mueller, who's been the administrator at the STG Lodge in Cornwall, who I've worked with over the time. So Dundas County is looking up with two new hires, so add some stability in here for the next little bit, as we're going to have a lot of things on our plates going forward, as we've been discussing. So with that, we'll say goodnight from the